Hello, beloved. This is a little different from the typical podcast episodes because I go into sharing a story about my experiences with rebirth, the different cycles of rebirth that I have gone through. And I also share an invitation. And the invitation is for you to work with me if you would like guidance in going through your own cycles of rebirth. So, what the rebirth process means is being able to alchemize the pain of a pregnancy loss or an infant loss or infertility, the pain of conditions such as endometriosis or PCOS, or the pain of birth trauma or some other experience related to loss or trauma in the womb, and how that might have separated you from your body, separated you from your sense of self. So the rebirth process is the reclamation. It's being able to turn that pain into power that is even greater than what you've experienced before. And so my invitation is to be a part of the next cycle of rebirth, the next group healing program that starts this April. So if you're interested, if this sounds like the kind of healing journey you might want to be on, then keep on listening because I share more about what the program entails. I share more about my experience going through my cycles of rebirth. There are also more details on the website. So go to nataliefacey.com and you'll find the link in the show notes as well. nataleefacey.com/rebirth for all the details of the program and to sign up to have a free consultation call with me. And in this call, we can chat through any questions that you have. We can chat through how the program has impacted other participants in the past. And we'll get you signed up and ready to go through your own cycle of rebirth in community, with love, with care, and at a beautiful, beautiful pace for your healing. Okay, so I look forward to seeing you there. And there is a code, there's a discount code that I share in this recording, which was an IG live. So pardon the the phone alerts that you'll hear a couple of times. But if you'd also like to have a discount on this cycle of the rebirth healing experience, listen to the end where I share the code so that the next time that we chat, you can let me know what the code is and you'll get a discount for that. Okay, sending lots of love. And I'm so looking forward to connecting with you if you are ready for your healing. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, if it has had a positive impact on your journey and you're ready to actually take the steps to go deeper. You're ready to actually be supported in your journey. This is the time that it's happening. It's now. And so if you're interested, listen to the recording or head on over to the website and book a free consult to connect with me. All right, sending love. So yes, we are talking about the rebirth process and what it means to go through a rebirth. And this has definitely changed in terms of what it's meant for me over the years, going through a rebirth. And the story, or the one of the stories that came to me recently was that years and years ago, I was still in college and doing some energy healing, like working with a practitioner to do some energy healing. And I have been on this healing journey for so long. Like, it's been a moment. It's been a while. And one of the things that this healer, this practitioner said to me is that I get to use my pain so that it would become the manure, um, you know, my pain could become useful, right? So, like manure is something that you put at, like the root of a tree, and it helps the tree to grow, it helps the tree to bear. And I thought, that sounds beautiful. How does it happen? Like in theory, I get it. Like I understand what you're saying, but how, right? How does that happen? I can't, I'm not living it. And something came back to me recently that was similar to that, which composting, exactly. I was looking for that word. I'm so glad you mentioned it. Thank you for that, Mariana. And then something came back to me a couple of days ago that felt very much like that sentiment. And it was like a full circle moment because I realized that I had actually been experiencing that, right? Not only have I lived that, I've lived that cycle many times, and that's the cycle of the rebirth, right? So when we go through, and I can't say we because it might not have been the process for everyone, but speaking for myself, after going through trauma or something painful, it's like my desire has been to undo the trauma, right? Like, how can we how can I almost shift my life as though that never happened, right? So I have experienced pregnancy loss. I have experienced the loss of an infant, like the baby was actually born and then he made his transition afterwards. And that was the adult trauma. Before the adult trauma was the childhood trauma, right? And after the childhood trauma, I was convinced that, I had had my life's worth of trauma, and so I was going to be spared for the rest of my life because, you have a tough beginning. It just makes sense that you have an easier middle and an end. I don't know. That was my thought process, but obviously that isn't how it goes, or that isn't how it always goes. And so I have been working a lot in my life to erase trauma, right? It's basically to erase it. I wouldn't even, I've used the word heal, but it's really been to undo it. So much to hold and alchemize. Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's really been to undo it, to change my life in such a way so that it was clear that I wasn't affected by it. It was clear that it no longer had an impact on me. And again, that's why my healing journey has been such a long one, because there is always more healing that I see can be done, but I'm also living more life, which means that more things are happening. So there are more wounds to heal in the process of living life. And so I've learned to let go of this concept that it gets to be heal and done, right? Like, I'm just going to do this healing and then it's going to be over. It's this ongoing process. It's this cycle of moving through something so that the rebirth has happened, so that some change has happened, and then moving through another cycle with the lessons that you've learned from the previous cycles, right? So that's a way that I am now holding what the rebirth process is. And one way to visualize this, right? So that healer that I was working with years and years ago, she used the example of the manure. And there were these images that were coming to me, maybe 2 days ago or 3 days ago from a really powerful meditation. And in this meditation, I was releasing trauma, right? And for those who don't connect with the word trauma, you can call it emotional wounds or unhealed emotions. So after going through something, it's whatever is still left, right? It's whatever might still be left in your body, really. It's whatever is unresolved, right? So that's the trauma that's there, even though a lot of people might not resonate with the word trauma. And so in this meditation and breathwork experience, right, it is a spiral. It is a spiral, these cycles of death and rebirth. So as I was releasing the trauma and the hurt and the really heavy emotions through this breathwork exercise, I was starting to envision myself sending it away, like on a stream, like actually deciding that this pain had done its work and now I was ready to release it. I no longer needed to be holding on to this pain because it no longer served a purpose, right? I could release it from my life. And so as I saw myself releasing it, it was like being carried away on the stream on this little boat. And then I set the boat on fire. I set the thing on the boat on fire, right? And there it was, just floating away, this beautiful flame on the boat, on the water. And then the next part of the vision, or what I was envisioning, was that whatever material was left after burning that, it got to be planted at the base of a tree that was by the stream. A mature tree, right? But this thing, the old pain, the residue that had now been transformed into something else, it got to be planted at the root of a tree. And then the tree began blossoming. So these beautiful white flowers appeared as whatever that was, whatever the pain was, actually became the compost or the manure. It became some form of nutrient that actually made the tree stronger, that made the tree more resilient, that made it more beautiful, that led to it having the stuff for it to blossom. And that for me now is the rebirth process, that experience, right? So while that healer was using her words to share with me what was possible, it sounded just like a theory, but I didn't see that I was living it, or I couldn't see how I could live it. But I realized that I have been living that cycle. You know, so there is this, I can think of so many annoying positive quotes. And one of them is that you can't get over it, you have to get through it. I have used that one before, but I also find it annoying. Like, damn, like, can't you just get over it already? Like, can't I just get over it already? Can't I just move to the part of myself that's healed and whole and better, versus like all of the work that I have to do the healing, right? Can I just get over? But we have to go through. And the going through, it's an important and necessary part of the journey. Thank you, Mariana. Thank you. I'm feeling the love. The going through is an important and necessary part of the journey, because it's in the going through it that we change shape. It's in the going through it that the transformation happens. And it's in the going through it that we become stronger. So one of the words that Mariana used before was alchemy. So we have to alchemize the pain, right? The pain is a part of our experience, is a part of our journey. And having an erasure of it as though it never happened, that actually means that there's no growth, right? So if someone could perform some kind of, like mind practice or hypnosis, like something that would allow you to forget that you had your painful experience, that would actually serve you much less than having awareness and memory of the experience and healing it on an emotional level. Because that going through changes you in a way, again, so that you're stronger, so that you're wiser, so that you're more resilient. And a lot of these experiences, they're a part of our life journey, right? Meaning they're the tools that we use to create the life that we actually envision, even though it might not feel that way. So another story that's coming up is when I was in the hospital having a loss, and I reached out to a mentor and friend of mine. So this is the person who was the, I think, officiant. That's the people who do the wedding. So he was the officiant at my wedding. And I remember asking him, I'd be okay with a 50% reduction of trauma. Yeah. Agreed, Mariana. So I remember asking him, why is this happening? You know, he was also one of my yoga teachers and my Kundalini meditation teacher. And so I wanted to know from a spiritual, universal perspective, like, what the fuck? That's what I wanted to know. And he said, you know, sometimes we'll never know. Sometimes we'll never know why. However, when someone else has gone through an experience similar to this one, you are going to be the person who's going to be able to help them. And again, sounds nice. But at that time, I was like, I don't care. I just want to know why, so that I can be at peace with it, or I want to know why so that I can prevent it from happening again. Like, that is the state that I was in. That's the level of pain that I was in, right? And again, going through that experience has changed my life in so many ways, so that I'm like a lot more fearless. Like, I've gone through so much shit that I still have fear. I'm human. But there are a lot of things that don't faze me, basically because of all that I've gone through. And still the opposite of that could be to easily being shut down because of all that you've gone through, right? To not have the capacity for anything else because of all that you've gone through and all that you're holding, right? And so I'm sharing this because on the other side of the pain, right, on the other side of the hurt, there's the opportunity for healing. And when the healing happens, you are always a version of yourself that is more powerful. You're always a version of yourself that is stronger. You're always a version of yourself that's wiser. And the reason for that is that the strength is developed in the healing. The wisdom is found in the healing. So it is the going through, right, that you get to give birth to this different version of yourself. This version of yourself that wants to emerge as a result of what you went through. Like, it doesn't happen without it, basically. For someone who has never gone through deep levels of pain, for someone who has never gone through deep levels of trauma, for someone who's never been hurt, they don't know what it's like to heal from that. They don't know what it's like to have to conjure the power in order to get up and live the next day. But you get to do that. It's like you have the material, you have the ingredients to connect with your power, to connect with your wisdom, right? There's so much power on the other side of that. And so that's the rebirth process for me. And while I've given you this image of what's possible, it so often happens that we don't access it. And the reason why we don't access it is because we're actually blocking ourselves from our own healing. We actually get in the way. So I'll share a few of what those blockers are. And most of the times it's fear. It is fear because we worry that in healing, it means that we'll have to revisit the hurt. The same thing that broke you, the same thing that left you wounded and feeling shattered. The fear is that you'll have to go through that same thing again in order to heal. That isn't the case. I don't think many of us will be able to survive, the same trauma over and over again just to heal. So it isn't the case that you have to go through the same experience. It is the case that you have to connect with the pain, that you actually have to meet the emotions that are showing up. And that can be done in a way that is gentle. Actually, it's most effective if it's done in a way that's gentle. It's most effective if it's done in a way that's kind. And it's most effective if it's done in a way that is at your pace. Right? And so I just want to name that the fear that healing is going to hurt all over again, that isn't necessarily true. It means that you do have to find the form of healing that works best for you, that is most supportive for your personality and your pace and where you are in your journey. But if your healing is re-triggering and re-traumatizing and hurting all over again, it means that you're probably not healing. You're hurting all over again. Right? So that's the first fear. Another fear is the fear of change. So it's the fear that when I heal, I'm going to be a different person, right? Like the shit that I've gone through, when I heal through this, I can't be the same. And if I become a different person, then do I become a different person for those who are around me? Am I a different person for my partner, for my friends, for my family, for the job that I'm in? When I become a different person, does it mean that I'm going to have to change my life and my lifestyle to honor the new me? And that fear is real. That fear is real. And you might have to, or you might not have to. But you'll discover a new version of yourself that's more authentic. And you'll find ways to honor that new version and to honor whoever else and whatever else is important in your life. And something that a teacher shared with me the other day, and actually this was the breathwork teacher, was that in the midst of breathwork, as there is energy, the emotions, the trauma that is moving out of the body with the breath, there is some resistance that comes up, like we start to tighten up and hold back, right? This fear of dying. And the reality is that we are going through a death process. It's a death process of the ego, or a death process of the image that we have created for ourselves. And while that image served you at some point in your life, it might not be serving you now. And the reason why you know that it isn't serving you now is because the dying is happening, the releasing is happening. That's the part of you that has to be released in order to give birth, or in order to make way for a new version of you, right? So things that you might release might be people pleasing. You might release not sharing your voice. You might release hiding your light. You might release putting others before yourself, doing so in a way that it actually impacts your health, it impacts your well-being. You might release being obsessed with other people's opinion of you, like not being able to be at peace in your body, within your own being, unless there is some affirmation that comes from someone else that they're pleased with you, right? And while those things might serve us in the midst of being traumatized, right? While those might be helpful, hopeful, while those might be helpful coping mechanisms, as you're going through your rebirth and stepping into this more powerful version of yourself, they might not serve you, right? And so some dying has to happen so that you can experience your personal rebirth, right? And we're just coming out of Easter at the time of this live and the time of this recording. And Easter was about the death and the rebirth process, right? And so there are these cycles that we go through that are inevitable, and they're meant to make us stronger, regardless of the pain that you've gone through, regardless of what or who you've lost. There is an opportunity for deep healing. There's an opportunity to find so much courage and so much strength inside of you. And I really want you to be able to connect with that. I really want you to be able to access that. Okay, so I just gave two fears. The first is fear of going through the pain. The next one is fear of changing, becoming a different person. And then, ooh, this is a juicy one. This is a juicy, juicy one. This last one is the fear of your own divinity. So Marianne Williamson has this wonderful poem. Okay, our deepest fear. It's a little long. I'll see how much of it I can read. So our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Ooh, okay. That was really good. Like, yeah, that was some beautiful energy right there. Couldn't stay still with that one. Yes. So that is a big fear, the fear of meeting your own divinity, the fear that you will come face to face with the beauty and the perfection that is you, the imperfect perfection that is you, the perfectly imperfect that is you, the magnificence that is you. And when you come face to face with that, you'll realize that the stories that you've told yourself about being too small, not being enough, whatever enough is, that those stories weren't true. And if those stories are not true, then it means that you actually have to step into your own power. It means that you actually have to step into your authentic self. And that's the fear. That is the fear that you will be called to step up and answer. That you will be called to step up and live the life that you know that you are worthy of. And so sometimes, because we're just a little bit nervous of what that means, then we actually delay our healing. We actually don't answer the call. We don't respond to the invitation. One of the practices that I teach, and it's been so fun exploring this. It's been fun having this insight, show up and sharing it with others and continuing to practice it in my own journey. And this is finding the balance between courage and care. And what I mean by this is we are always going to be called to do something that we're afraid of. We're always going to be called to step into some other version of ourselves, and it's going to be new and uncomfortable and scary. And because it's new, we might not want to go because it's not a space that we've navigated before. If we have, fears around doing it well, or perfectionism and not disappointing people and not being criticized, then that might cause you to be even more stuck in your life. Right? So we're always called to more. And it takes courage to answer that call. It takes courage to step into that. And while it takes courage to step into that, we don't have to throw ourselves in the fire. Because in order for a healing to happen, it actually requires safety. Like we have to feel safe in order to give ourselves a permission to heal. And so that's where care comes in. The courage is doing this bold act. It's taking the first step and the next. And the care is actually having the support you need around you in order to do that. Having anything that you need around you in order to do that. So maybe it's going slow. Maybe it's having a roadmap so that you know what to expect. Maybe it's working with a mentor or a guide so that they can say, okay, up ahead, this corner, there's going to be a dragon that sneaks behind the rock, and you're going to want to be prepared for it. So bring your armor, bring your fire protective wear, because this dragon spits a shit ton of fire. Right? What if that's what you need to feel safer? Whatever it is that you're moving through, you don't have to throw yourself into it with all of the vulnerability. How do you wrap yourself up in care? Because this is your healing. And as you're doing something brave, how do you support yourself in the process? Okay. So we've already moved into the last bit that I wanted to share about, which is how to access your healing. And that first tip was finding this balance between courage and care. I'm just now realizing that there's some like fancy things up here that I could, no, maybe not that, nope, not that either. Oh Lord, that is very distracting. All right, I will experiment with these filters another day, but they look fun. Okay. So, this last section is on how to access your healing and rebirth. And that first one was finding the balance between courage and care. Another one is being witnessed. And I don't think we realize how deeply healing it is to be witnessed. So, the reason why support groups are so effective, the reason why you might be drawn to a support group after going through, loss, infertility, some kind of trauma in your birthing experience, or just trauma in general, right? Um, is because you get to feel less alone. You get to be with others who recognize, yeah, like I know that journey, right? Who see you. Because often when we are among our friends and our family members, like often we are the only one who has gone through that experience, not all the time, but very often, right? It's almost as though life sets it up so that the journey is unique to us, right? Within our little circle of friends or family or trusted people, it's like this is our unique journey. And so we often have to find some other community or group of people that have gone through similar journeys as us, so that there is this sense of feeling less alone, of feeling supported, of feeling seen, of feeling heard, and feeling understood, right? Because no matter how a good friend or a partner or some other person in your life cares for you and loves you, they haven't walked in your shoes, then it's hard for them to get what your experience has been like. And so you're surrounded by people who love you, and yet you still feel alone in the experience. And that impacts your healing. Because if you feel alone, you might feel misunderstood and you might feel unsupported, no matter how well meaning people are around you. So, being in a community for your healing and having support for your healing, hugely impactful, so impactful. And just being able to share your story and have other people hear it, that alone is healing, right? So, ways to access your healing and your rebirth, again, courage and care, being witnessed, being in community, and having support. Now, this one-to-one, the support can be the group support, the support from the group and those around you, the support from the community. It's also important that the support gets to be one-to-one, because in a group setting, you're typically moving with the vibe of the group, with the story of the group. So someone shares a story, someone might share another story that's similar. And so there's a theme that's happening. But when you get to have the one-to-one space, the one-to-one sharing, then you get to go to how that particular story impacted you, right? What came up for you from that story, from that share, from that, whatever lesson or whatever, the group is going through. What came up for you? What has arisen in your body and in your emotions, and having the support to work through that, right? So your healing is possible. In fact, yeah, your healing is possible. And, the thought that was coming to mind is that your life wants the healing to happen, because your life doesn't want to stay closed off, shut down. Like, life wants to live. Life wants to live. Life wants to thrive. And if that hasn't been happening, if you're feeling stuck and alone and closed off and limited, misunderstood, it means that you may not have had enough support for your healing. Or it means that you may have been holding so much fear that you haven't been able to move forward with your healing. It means that you may not have had the tools or the roadmap. You just may not have had access or the right person so that you can go on your healing journey. And I want to tell you that, again, not only is your healing possible, but your life wants it to happen. Your life wants you to heal. And so if this is something that resonates with you, if you feel that your life has been calling you to move forward with your healing, if you feel as though the timing is right, if you feel as though, this sense that there's just something that wants to emerge, and if only you had whatever, the pathway, the tools, the guidance to do so for this emergence, for this rebirth to happen, if you've been sensing that, it means that you're ready, right? And maybe the only thing that you're missing are the tools and the pathway and the guidance to do so. Okay. So if that resonates with you, then I would love to invite you to be a part of a healing experience that I will be facilitating starting this month. So this is a 3-month journey. A 3-month journey with others who have experienced loss. So this can be pregnancy loss, infant loss, others who have experienced trauma around the womb center. So it could be endometriosis, PCOS, other conditions that impact fertility and pregnancy. Could be infertility, and it also could be birth trauma. And the reason why all of those categories apply is because when there is hurt around the womb center, when there is trauma or unhealed emotions around the womb center, that impacts so much of our lives. It impacts anything having to do with creativity, creative expression. It impacts relationships. It impacts your sense of self in the world. And it can impact future pregnancies if the proper healing isn't done. Right? And so one of the things that I've shared about in the past is that someone goes through trauma, even when they're in a setting where no one knows about their trauma or their painful past, the trauma still shows up because it's a part of who they are, right? How they hold themselves back, or how they overdo in order to compensate, or whatever other responses there are, they're trauma responses because the healing hasn't been done. And so trauma changes you. Unhealed emotions change you. Like an emotion can be the difference between getting out of bed in the morning and not getting out of bed. That's the difference in an emotion, which leads to a thought. So that's how powerful they are. And yet, going through your healing gives you that power. Gives you the power to choose, gives you the power to reclaim your life and decide what you do moving forward. And so in this healing journey, which starts this month, you'll be with others who have gone through similar painful experiences, and we will be going through different topics related to the healing journey. Topics related to intentional healing, so practices to actually intentionally heal, practices that you can use at home, whether it's on a daily basis, as a daily ritual, a daily way to start the day or to end the day, or things that you can incorporate throughout the week. We'll be going through understanding the emotions on a deeper level and how to heal heavy emotions that come up, like shame and guilt, jealousy, anger. We'll also be talking about how to heal relationships. So, if there are challenges in the relationship with your partner, in the relationship with family members, even in the relationship with doctors and professionals in terms of advocacy and finding your voice, then we'll be talking about that as well and working through tools related to that. We'll also be doing work on connecting with the body, reconnecting with the body, so that whatever shame or guilt or pain, whatever heavy emotions are held there, then we get to hold those with love. There is so much that we'll be going through, so much, and the healing journey is spaced out so that every 2 weeks we cover a different topic. So it's not like this week we do this and then this week we change to that. There's like spaciousness in between so that you actually get to practice these tools. We'll all be in a community space together, a private community space, not on Facebook, because Facebook is just like this for me, like so much busyness that it really isn't supportive of my energy, I have found. And so we'll be in a private community space off of Facebook where you get to share what's coming up for you, right? So there's even more witnessing that can occur there. So every time we meet, which is every 2 weeks, there is a different topic that's shared, and there is reflection on how that topic has shown up in your life, how it's showing up now, and then there are exercises to help to do the healing. And you get to continue with those practices when you go home and come back and share what those experiences have been like for you. And in between, share within the group what you've been doing. So there is a lot of care that's wrapped around you. There's a lot of love, right? And each person gets to feel safer in the experience in doing so. And the other thing that is going to be added is, well, that is added, it's a part of it already, are the one-to-one sessions. So this is where you get to go deep into whatever has come up for you, right? So there'll be different points as we're having or group gatherings that you get to have your one-to-one and go deeper. And sometimes those can just be discussions between you and me. It can be coaching. In our last cohort, I did some card readings that were really, really impactful. And it can be moving energy, right? So going deeper, connecting with your body and moving heavy energy out of your body through embodiment practices. So there is so much that you'll be able to get out of this. And it really does lead to a form of rebirth. It really does lead to having awareness of what are the things that you're holding that are ready to be released so that you can step into a version of yourself that is more powerful, that's more confident. Yeah, so if this sounds good, if this sounds like something that you're interested in, head to nataliefacey.com/rebirth, REBIRTH. And on that page, you'll be able to see more of the details of the program. And you'll also be able to sign up for a free consultation session with me. So if you have questions, if you're interested in learning the impact that it had for the members of our previous cycle that ended in March, then happy to share those with you as well. Any questions that you have, then happy to chat through those. yeah, and I'm excited to have you. I'm excited to see how this can impact your journey and what you will give birth to, right? Something that I have spoken about, repeatedly in the podcast is that it is beautiful to give birth to a baby. And it isn't the answer to your healing. Because even after giving birth, the emotions are still held inside of you, whether it is fear or shame or guilt. It's like those things are now going to coexist, both the joy of your newborn and all of the emotions that are still there, all of the trauma that's still there after those experiences. And so the gift of your healing is the gift that serves every other purpose, every other desire in your life. So whether your desire from here is to become a parent or be a better partner or start this business or do this project or create this art or express yourself in this way, like your healing gets to be the fuel that allow all of those things to happen with greater ease and clarity and more power. And specifically related to pregnancy, one of the topics that we'll also be going over is understanding the toxins in our food or the air from different things that we put on our bodies and in our bodies, and how that impacts our hormones, how that impacts fertility and pregnancy. So having an awareness of that and a roadmap to remove those things out of our lives and body and food, and replacing them with things that are cleaner and will help our body to sustain itself and to sustain a pregnancy. And so really a lot of value, really a lot of depth, really so much beauty and so much community that we create together. So if you're interested, head over to nataliefacey.com/rebirth, and I'll include the website link in the comments or in the description as well. And let's chat. All right, let's see if the program is right for you. There are also like pricing options for the program so that it's super affordable. I had the thought of offering a discount, a one-time discount to anyone who actually listens to this and then goes to the program. So I think I'll do 11% because 1 is the universal number. I'll do 11%. So when you speak to me, your code is going to be alchemy. Remember that code, alchemy, ALCHEMY. Your code is alchemy. So when you speak to me, just tell me that you heard it, whether it's like on Instagram. I'm also going to share this recording in other places. So wherever you hear it, let me know the keyword alchemy, and you will receive 11% off of the price, whether you do a one-time payment or you do a I'm sort of like bubbling with energy because this is so exciting for me. Yeah, whether you do the payment, the installment, or you do the one-time payment, your discount is 11% from the word alchemy. So exciting. All right, I'm going to hop off now. This was lovely. For those who are going to be watching the replay, hit me up in the DMs. You can also email me, but since you're on Instagram, you might as well DM me. If you're listening to this on another platform, my email is hello@nataliefacey.com. So that's NATALEE, F as in face, FACEY as in face, in fact, .com. Okay? All right. This was lovely. Thank you so much for joining, for staying until the end. And when we connect, tell me the code, because I'm also like excited to see that you listen to it until the end. So let me know the code and we will connect soon. Mwah. Bye and thank you. And I'm so excited to connect with you and have you in this cycle of our Rebirth Healing course. So, so excited.